Welcome into the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, I have 6 trade options for the Ravens, including the wide receiver position as well as the offensive tackle spot, with the uncertainty of Ronnie Stanley's return. We'll dive into those and break every one of those trade options down for you in just a moment from right now. But before we do, it is all about the Noti Gang this month here at Chat Sports. We want you to not only subscribe to our channel, but also have your notifications on as well. So here's what we'll do. For the first 10 people that comment gang on today's show, the real ones out there, will give you a shout out on our next edition of the Ravens Rundown. So today, when I look at these trade options of where the Ravens position themselves right now, they're a very good team, but they're still a couple key pieces away from being an elite team. And maybe a trade option that we'll show you here today could get this team over the hump. Let's start out with filling that wide receiver spot. The Ravens are finding themselves in an inexperienced group, and they still may be good enough as is, but if they got an opportunity to trade for DK Metcalf, it might be an opportunity they can't pass up. One idea that they could possibly do is maybe trade a first and second round pick in next year's draft for a player like DK who, if you look at his numbers, he's been terrific, but I don't even think he has reached his ceiling at this point. You go back to his rookie season in 2019, 58 receptions, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2020, a career high, 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then last year, even with having to play with Geno Smith for a period of time, he still reached a career high in touchdowns, 12 total, with just under 1,000 yards receiving. Another guy, similar compensation, is Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. And in Deebo's case, very similar to DK Metcalf, both guys entering their 4th year in the National Football League, looking to get paid, and that's the key here. Whether it's DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel, not only are you looking at giving up compensation for both these players, but also you would have to give up a lot of money as well, as both these guys are looking to get paid. And it's no secret that the money that wide receivers are getting right now is at record levels across the National Football League. A lot of trades have gone down this offseason because teams were not willing to dish out the money that these receivers demanded. Case in point, the Miami Dolphins having to pay Tyreek Hill $30 million, making him the highest paid receiver in the league, and leaving the Kansas City Chiefs. Devontae Adams got a lot of money to go to the Raiders at $28 million. DeAndre Hopkins, $27.25. Cooper Kupp's got a new deal that keeps him with the Rams at $26.17, and then there's A.J. Brown at $25 million, and I think A.J. Brown is probably what you're looking at of the range for whether it's Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf, either one, of what you would have to pay for either receiver. The next core of guys, it's pretty pricey there too. Stephon Diggs at 24, Terry McLaurin got a new deal recently at 23.2, DJ Moore at 20, as well as Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper at $20 million. So, if you had to pick between DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel, if all things are equal when it comes to money and trade compensation, if you're a Ravens fan and can choose between one of those two, who would you go with? Type DK for DK Metcalf. Type Deebo for Deebo Samuel. Let me know in the comments section. This is our pinned comment today. You're about to get an ad break. Take advantage of it. While the ads play, get your votes in. Let me know if you had to choose a wide receiver, who would you rather go with, DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel? Another wide receiver option that wouldn't cost you a whole lot is Darius Slayton of the New York Football Giants. And I think you would just have to give up a 6th-round pick for Darius Slayton. Now, here's the thing, though. If you wait a little bit longer, you might not have to give up anything at all for Darius Slayton. I know that the New York Football Giants are shopping Darius Slayton right now, but there's a chance that he could be cut before the season begins if they can't find a trade suitor. So maybe you take the risk where you don't give up the compensation. You wait a little bit longer and you pick him up as a free agent potentially. Here's what ESPN had to say about Slayton's situation right now. Slayton is entering the final season of his rookie deal, and there were at least some discussions about moving him last year and this offseason. With a new regime, his spot appears uncertain, especially after spending the spring working plenty with the second team, even with the top 3 wide receivers injured. So let's shift gears now and look at another need for the Ravens. That is the left tackle spot. Ronnie Stanley, his future uncertain of when we will see him on the field in 2022. Now, the Ravens have told Juwan James to be ready to go week 1. We haven't seen him play since 2019, though. So with that, you have a lot of uncertainty at that position, and you need depth of some sort. So I understand the concern with James. I think he's a very capable player that he could fill that void until Ronnie Stanley's ready to go. But with his injury history, too, the Ravens might find themselves saying, look, you can't wait around, that you may need to make a move of some sort. So before we dive into these trade options, should the Ravens trade for an offensive tackle? Should they make a move here and provide a safety net at arguably the most important position on the football field, that left tackle spot? Let me know. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you think the Ravens should trade for an offensive tackle. So we couldn't talk trades without mentioning a Chuck Clark trade, right? He is on the trade block. The Ravens are looking to move on from him as he's already been replaced. You could package him in a second-round pick, potentially, for Mekhi Becton from the New York Jets, and he could fill that spot that you need. Now, Becton, if you don't get him, he might actually end up in the division. There's been talks that Becton could be a Pittsburgh Steeler, that the Steelers are interested in Becton. So that's interesting to me, that it's one of those deals where if you don't act, then your enemy could get stronger here. So if you take Becton away from the Jets here, then the Steelers miss out on the guy that they want potentially. So that is also something to keep in mind. Here's the scouting reports on Becton from the Draft Network. He clearly had slimmed down from his reported peak weight post-surgery, but there's still some way to go before he's in playing shape. What's more, Becton wasn't yet ready to practice with the rest of his teammates. He's still rehabbing that knee and stayed with the trainers throughout the practices rather than participating in stretches and activities. They said that he got up to about 400 pounds at one point after the surgery that he went through this offseason. Couple more options for you. Andre Dillard, offensive tackle from the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think this one could find themselves, the Ravens, giving up about a 4th-round pick if they want Dillard. Here is what Sports Illustrated had to say just a little while ago about Dillard at this point. Athletic big man with solid technique and above-leverage lateral foot speed. Did the job most of the time. Handled Micah Parsons. Nice kick out initially in pass pro and setup. Uses hands, arm, grit, raw strength, and his size to form a nice shield on the perimeter. Moves fluidly. Looks good in space on screens. Looked like a smart player who, picking up stunts, blitzes, and spin backs, challenged by speed at the back door and by inside rushes at times, but he compensated with effort to get by. So there you have it. That is what to look at there when it comes to Andre Dillard. Now, I have one more name to get to as a possible trade target for the Ravens, but before we get to that, it's your turn to be the GM here on the Ravens Rundown. Name a player that you want the Ravens to trade for. Could be somebody that we've named on today's show. Could be somebody we didn't bring up. Let me know in the comment section a player that you would like to see the Ravens grab up. Now, for me, the best move when it comes to bringing in an offensive tackle is not the 2 names we just mentioned, but it's Walker Little from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Good size, 6'7", 309, and he started 3 games as a rookie for the Jags last year in 2021 with a solid Pro Football Focus score of 68.6. And the Jags are in a position with Cam Robinson and company that they don't really need Walker Little. So you could find this diamond in a rut of sorts with Walker Little here by giving up just a 4th-round pick. And then you have some depth, some flexibility there. This could be the perfect stopgap until Ronnie Stanley's ready to go. I like the idea of Walker Little. I think there's a lot of potential, and last year, remember, the Jags were not very good at all. So the fact that he played well in his 3 starts when there wasn't a whole lot that went right for the Jags, that's a positive sign. So Walker Little, to me, is the trade I'd make when it comes to these offensive tackles. So there you have it. That is a look at a few trade options for the Baltimore Ravens as we count you down to training camp. We're going to be all over it here on the Rundown. If you made it to the end of today's video, we certainly love you and appreciate you. Type flock if you are a real one and made it to the end of today's show, and we'll see you next time here on the Ravens Rundown.